No, he's somebody that we, digital recruitment, looking in databases, stats, data, all that kind of thing, he got highlighted. Then we looked at his clips, so probably a modern day recruitment strategy, to be honest. Then we asked a lot of people down south, and then I got in touch with his agent. He's 24, I needed him a long-term contract. I think he's going to bring a lot of stability to the goalkeeping position at the football club. Most season it's been an area since Liam Kelly left. We had Neil Alexander in the Championship and Liam Kelly in his first year in the Premier League in Scotland, and we've been relying on loan deals and the parent clubs taking him away after 6 months, taking him away after 12 months. And then last year we managed to get two full-time keepers in, well, at the later end of the season. But I still feel it's an area of the park where we needed a bit more continuity. Shamal's at a good age, his stats are there to be seen, everybody can see, and I think he's going to grow into being the Livingston #1 over the next 3 to 6 months. I think I've got 3 goalkeepers now. I spoke to Ivan and Max, I was very honest with them. I told them they both had opportunities within the Premier Sports Cup to stake their place for the #1 shot. I don't think either done that convincingly, if I'm honest. So I've now got 3 goalkeepers in the building. If one of them were to chat my door and ask to leave the club, I wouldn't be adverse to that. Yep, Shamal's earned that right. Ivan and Max have opened the door for someone else to come in and take that jersey, so it's Shamal's to lose at this point in time. But obviously Shamal's going to have competition within Ivan and Max if both are in the building. I think it's just unusual for Livingston, to be honest. Yeah, it's unusual, but the agent, Shamal and Colchester, really helped us out with that. Robert and John at the club were very creative with the figures and the numbers, and by bringing Shamal over the 4 years, it allowed us a wee bit of payment terms there, to be fair. So that was one of the reasons we needed him at the club that little bit longer, so it decreased the payment terms every year. But he's well within our wage structure, and paying that wee bit of a transfer fee hopefully brings a wee bit more continuity. If you look at it, it's an important area of the park, and I look at some of the top goalkeepers in the Premier League and they're probably worth 12 to 15 points a season. Like, just offhand, I look at Craig Gordon's, just even the games that we played against Craig, the saves that he made that allowed Hearts to pick up 3 points, and that was just against ourselves, was incredible. So that's what I'm looking for, that wee bit of investment. That return on investment can either come from the player sale or transfer at a later date, but more importantly, points throughout the season. No, I probably need to move 1 or 2 on, to be fair, but for that to happen, it generally means you've got to bring someone in the building. I'm looking for 1 more offensive player, and I'll be fairly happy with what I've got in the building. If the window shut tomorrow, again, I'd be fairly happy with and comfortable with what we've got, but I'd like to add 1 more offensive player. No, Lee's not been in. I think he's talking to a club. I don't know where, it's not really my place to say anyway, but he was in last week. I had him in doing extra shifts, me, him and Brucey, and he was working with Brucey as well, and honestly, I knew this about Lee Griffiths. He's a fantastic boy in and around the club. I can't comment on Lee's history, I can just comment for when he was here. He looked in good shape, lost a lot of weight for the time I seen him in the Dundee game. His body fats were really low in comparison to that, and I had him in, we were doing some strikers drills. His quality is incredible, honestly. Like, he's still needing a wee bit of match sharpness, but some of his finishing and his touches were incredible. And even that wee half hour, an hour we spent, me, him and Brucey together, I think Brucey was able to pick up on a few points here. So I need to thank Lee as much as probably we gave Lee some way to come and keep fit. I need to thank Lee as well, because he came in and he was genuinely very positive about the place, and he was a pleasure to coach. There was a lot of interest in Max before the season ended, sorry. And it kind of cooled down a lot, and I was just speaking to Brian about it. I genuinely believe over the next 2 to 3 weeks you're going to see a wee bit of an upturn in the market, and it's more about clubs in and around our level with players moving on. And I think there's going to be 2-3 weeks into the season, there's going to be clubs looking for positions that they maybe felt they didn't have to look for in the summer. So I still think you're going to find a lot of movement over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Definitely, there's still English teams playing pre-season friendlies, you know. So I think you're going to find English season starts early August, mid-August, something along those lines. And I think you're going to find the week before the end of the window, I think there's going to be a bit of movement. And it'll all have a knock-on effect throughout Scotland and England. If there's a lot of movement in England, it's probably going to lead to the ripple effect up in Scotland. So I think you're still to see a lot of player movement between clubs in Scotland and down in England. As I was been debating that with myself. Normally Rangers have played 2 or 3 friendlies and they've maybe been in Europa League qualifiers, Champions League qualifiers, so they're up to speed. But then if you look at the order, you flip that round, there's probably they had a good break. And if you look at the standard of the opposition that they've had over the last week anyway, I was at the West Ham game, and then you look at Spurs. Now I think they're in a good place, if I'm honest. The players are fairly fresh. But you've got to remember their season kicked on because of the Scottish Cup as well. They were a wee bit later and they had the Europa Cup final. Nah, I think they look fresh. I think they'll be here, they'll come here, they're ready for the game. I think there's the added incentive from their players that they've got a huge game on the Thursday. So I'd imagine that starting 11 are all fighting to keep that jersey for the Champions League qualifier on the Thursday. But again, hopefully some of these players don't like the plastic park. It's okay, we're in a fairly good place. We've got a bit bad news with Tom Parks. Tom Parks is probably going to have to go and get a second op. He's potentially 6-9 months away, so that's a killer for the club. But it's, on a personal level, it's devastating for Tom. He's worked so hard. So that was a wee bit of a blow, to be honest. Morgan Boyes is still recovering from his ankle operation at the tail end of last season. But bar that, everybody else is in a fairly good place. He's an old school centre half. He does what I want centre halves to do. Go and win their aerial duels, and he defends. He defends his 18-yard box. He's used to the ball. His game management's very good, and he's a talker. And it's difficult. I speak to coaches about this all the time. Speak to my staff about it. Speak to my players about it. But getting boys to take leadership and ownership and talk on the part and communication. And I'm finding it a dying breed, if I'm honest. Dying breed, having these on the field leaders, i.e. in terms of communication and being vocal. And Partsy's definitely one of the old school defenders who leads by example, but he's very, very vocal on the park, and that's one of the things I'm noticing coming through academies into first team football, is trying to find these boys that are vocal on the park. So I've got a lot of time for Partsy. I just need them on the park, but obviously that's not going to happen in the near future. And it is exciting to a certain degree, but it's also how do you put it? Exciting. Try to find the correct word here, Brian. Exciting. It's
Stressful.
It's stressful, but you're going into it with a wee bit of trepidation as well, because nobody knows where we are. I was talking to Brian about it. I take the Old Firm, who should be 1 and 2. Let's be honest, you should be 1 and 2. I think you're looking at Hearts there, and I think Hearts have recruited very, very well. They've strengthened, they're in Europe. I think Robbie's a comfortable third, if I'm honest. Now, that's just my opinion. Then you look at Aberdeen and Hibs. I think everybody in Scottish football expect the top 5 to be around the top 5, that the teams, but there's always a surprise 1 or 2 packages. Then the rest is we're all fighting out to be 6th in the Premier League, maybe 5th with a wee surprise package, but we're all fighting to be 10th and above. So I think it's going to be a really strong campaign. I think we've got a really, really strong league this year. I think there's going to be a really exciting title race. And then you look at all maybe the Edinburgh clubs, you look at Aberdeen maybe throwing a Dundee United, who seem to have recruited very well again. I think that European money's really helped Dundee United in terms of their recruitment. I do feel it's unknown. Ask me 6 games into the season, matchday 5, matchday 6, I could probably give you a more educated answer. But at this point in time, I look at 1, 2 and 3 and I think it's pretty nailed on. I would expect Aberdeen, Hibs, maybe a Dundee United to be in there 4th, 5th and 6th, and then the rest of us are all fighting it out. But again, there's always surprise packages in the Premier League, and hopefully we can be one of these surprise packages in a positive aspect.